Welcome back to the Roll-Up High Roller community. As always, nothing on the roll-up is to be construed as financial advice. We are educators in the DeFi space. Toss us a quick like, give us a share, a repost, send it to a friend who may want to watch this, and finally, give us a sub or a follow. It means the world to help support credibly neutral educational content in DeFi. We're here to educate, empower, and enrich you, and let's jump in.
Welcome to Modular Day.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Go ahead. And tell us a little bit about what you're building and why it's important to be modular.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so I'm founder at Linera, Linera.io, and that's a new kind of layer one infrastructure that I started right after I left Facebook, the Libra project, the DM project, the blockchain project of Facebook, right? And so I was a blockchain. So I spent a bunch of years at Facebook, where I was a software engineer working on all kinds of scalable systems, and then I was one of the early engineers in the Libra project, like I said, and I worked on blockchain protocols, and so I was kind of obsessed from the beginning in scaling, but we couldn't innovate as much as part of Libra, and we had other problems, other fish to fry, and so I was given this opportunity to start this new project that's been really exciting so far, trying to create a new kind of layer one infrastructure, pioneering in a new way, a new execution model that is really like focusing on scalability and real-time user interactions on chain, and so it's been really interesting. So modularity, since you were asking, so for me it means essentially like trying to be the best at what you're doing and make yourself useful, as a piece of infrastructure. And so Linera is a layer one, but it's not a generic layer one. We're not trying to be good at everything, and we're really trying to focus on what I said, so the low latency user interactions, and so we'll see how at the end of the day how it's going to fit in the rest of the picture. But there are like versions of that, or we could be already seen as a side chain of Ethereum that is very specialized in real-time delivery of data, on-chain data. So there's a lot of ways we can go about this, but definitely we're like a very different kind of layer one infrastructure.
So let's dig into like the specific applications and transactions that you're building Linera to focus on. These are dual user latency transactions. This is something that isn't a particularly like could you basically tell us like what those are and why it's important to build a layer one specifically for those types of transactions?
So the core concept of Linera is what we call microchains. And that's really the starting point of everything. So the idea is that so far people have been optimizing for a particular kind of applications that kind of want to live on the same chain, so that they can be composed, and so you can, like, if you have like Uniswap, you can do flash loans and maybe combine that with other applications, and you got this infinite composability model in a high TPS chain that has worked so well for Ethereum, and now we're seeing that people are trying to scale this in layer twos, but in a way this is only one type of application. And if you look at the rest of the world, what's happening in Web 2 systems, more often than not, they have user accounts, they have objects that are mostly independent, and to me it felt a little weird to put them on the same chain. If we wanted to do, let's say, a decentralized eBay, right? So you have a bunch of auctions that are basically running independently from each other, and why would you put them in the same chain in the first place? And so what we're saying is, like, why don't we just allow each of those independent processes to have their own temporary chain, right? That is lightweight and kind of running independently in a way that it's going to be very easy to scale out using ideas of internal sharding, and elastic validators. So that's the starting point. So it's trying to create a new way to organize applications when they are different from what we've been seeing so far, and if they have like this independent user accounts, independent objects that are interacting, we can map these user accounts into user chains. That's the thing we're doing. Map the objects into object chains, and have this a sort of network of interacting chains. And so that's kind of the intuition, and then the engine is what we call microchains. And so microchains. That's the idea is that we have this one infrastructure with one set of validators that can run potentially millions of tiny chains in parallel, and we're building for that. We're building for a system where you got a number of low TPS chains, and you got millions of them. It's something that's completely new, and it's really good for if you're really into low latency interactions. The reason is because now if I'm a user and I'm playing, like there's a game instance somewhere, right? So we have our own, with all the players, maybe I have my own temporary chain, and whenever I want to make a move, I create a small block that contain my move there, and I don't need to compete with block space with the other users of the entire system for that, right? I just can create a small block only for my interaction in that game. And then the other user, as part of our layer 1 infrastructure, we're going to notify them. And their wallet is going to receive a notification that there's a new action, and that we embedding a VM in the wallets of the users. So they have actually the on-chain data, so they have their own replica of the game state. And from the wallet, we can notify the UI of the users. And now if the UI are reactive themselves using like some frameworks like React.js, something like that, then suddenly we have a system where we have end-to-end real-time interaction. So the moment I click in my UI, creates a block in my chain, change the state of the game, notify the other user, notify the UI of the other user, update the UI. And so we have all of that pipeline that is in our layer 1 and is entirely decentralized for the first time, I think.
Wow.
So that's kind of our project. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very cool because you take some of the core principles that have been in blockchain systems ever since Satoshi, with full nodes and being able to verify something, and you mentioned embedded into the wallet, right. The verification. So I think that's a very important piece, but you also are doing that on a per chain basis, because not all users need to know the state of what's happening on some random chain. I only care about what's happening on this micro chain that I think about. So this is both a very composable environment, but also a very localized environment. And I think the architecture calls for some very creative applications as a result of that.
Yeah. So there's one of the ideas we're having, for instance, like we could decide. So we have these building blocks, and now we can play with them, And one way we could do that, and we don't need to. Yeah, and so we could also make ourselves useful as part of a component in a bigger ecosystem. And so one way to use Linera is you could use Linera to build a decentralized API provider, actually. So we could scrape. So users could express some indexing queries on chain, on the Linera chain, and then that would tell our validators to index Ethereum in a certain way. And then our validators would then create, like message back the users, and then would notify their wallets, and then they would have the data they ask for that are delivered to their wallet and serviced to the other part of the Ethereum application, for instance. So that's one of the cool ideas, that I was thinking. That is very modular, so that's really in the theme of the day, right? And that's something that came out of like just composing the building blocks together.
Awesome.
But yeah, what's saying is really true. Like this idea of solving the problem of indexing data, and in our case, and the problem with light clients that are like supposed to be the way you obtain real end-to-end security in normal blockchains, except very few people use them because they are cumbersome. You need to, for every new kind of query, you need to figure out the authentication scheme, like how you do the Merkle proof and everything, so that you actually get this end-to-end inclusion, end-to-end security. Yeah. And we're kind of bypassing this problem entirely, so we don't have Merkle trees in this. Because the users are going to have a replica of their own small microchain and their own on-chain data in a trusted environment that can be queried directly.
Awesome. This is very exciting and very modular. And yeah, I mean, what a great event. Great to have you here. And where can the people find you and learn more about Linera?
Yeah, thanks. So we just released our DevNet, and so the main website for developers is linera.dev, where they'll find all the information to get started, spin their first microchain on our DevNet, publish a bunch of applications, and start programming, start experimenting.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Awesome.
It's
Thanks so
fun.
much.
Yeah.